Welcome to the second episode of the Blacktop podcast. First of all, just want to say thank you for tuning in. And man, we got some good news to cover today. First off, though, big fuck you to Montrezl Harrell and a big I love you to Bobby Portis. Now, heading from there. So initially, I thought it was just going to be me, then I have some homies here and there. But we got our solidified three. Now, Christian's not here today because he got schoolwork to do, but happy to announce officially, my co-host, definitely will have him host some episodes here and there. Reuben, appreciate you, bro. What up?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm chilling, yo.
Thanks for having me on full time. What's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning in, listening in with my boy DJ, and Christian's not here right now, but dude, I'm excited to get this thing rolling, man. Bro. Some big things coming, in the works.
Hundies, bro. We here to take over, bro.
Yes, sir.
Filipinos, you not know.
It's like, hey, we're pride, bro. Oh my god.
We're repping for the Filipinos, the Canadians, Vancouverites, even though none of us are actually from Vancouver, but
we all live outside of the city.
True, bro. Gosh. Well, that's just how it is. Everybody goes, yeah, I'm from Vancouver.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because nobody knows Coca-Cola, bro. You'd be like,
nobody knows where Surrey is.
I think people know Surrey by negative connotation.
Yeah, true. But all I want to say is, the part where I live at, not that bad. But once you get to
Wally,
Wally, Newton, that's where it is.
Get out of there, bro. Yeah. Don't be walking at 11 p.m. by yourself.
True. All right, but Canadian or Vancouver geography set aside, here's what we got planned for today. We're going to talk about our takes. From there, we're going to go do some superlatives. We're going to talk about our player of the week, our surprising player of the week, and from there, our rookie of the week. Heading from there, though, we're going to talk about some of the upcoming things. We got the Rising Star Challenge, the new format, which I think would be very, very nice and fresh to that. And at the end of it, probably the most important thing in terms of the NBA media right now, our all-star reserves.
Yes, sir.
While none of us are media, none of us have any say in it, we will act like we do.
Yes, sir.
So without further ado, let's talk about our takes. Now, Reuben, I'll give you the choice, bro. Do you want to go first, or do you?
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I can feel your energy. I feel you have something bubbling on the edge.
Yo, I do. I think.
I knew it. I was like, yo, man, I got my take today. I was like, all right, give it to you, bro. The floor is all yours.
I. My take of the day is Chris Paul's longevity is more impressive than LeBron's. Now, let me start off with this. Chris Paul is the Allen Iverson of his era, in that, like Kobe said, we're fortunate that he isn't 6'5". He's part of perhaps one of the biggest what-ifs in the modern NBA. The fact that, if you don't know, Chris Paul could have played with Kobe Bryant when he was in his prime. This is like 20 and 10 Chris Paul. But we get a little baby version of that with Devin Booker. Regardless, my main thing is this. The build of Chris Paul is not one that, instantly garners this dude's going to play in the NBA. LeBron 6'9", 250. Ain't shit else much he can do. This dude could have either played football or basketball, one of the two. But with Chris Paul, irregardless, he is undoubtedly one of the smartest players of his generation. In fact, all time. I think with the fact that his size is undersized in a league where you have 7-footers and just overall big men who can handle and pass the rock, he's still the king of facilitation. And I think that amount of longevity, being 36 and still averaging 10 plus assists, that is why that I believe Chris Paul's longevity is more impressive than LeBron's. And the fact that his team is not in the play-in right now. You know what I'm saying? No, actually, no, fuck that. Lakers, yo. Fix your fucking team. But yeah, Reuben, what you think, bro?
You know what? I don't know if I would go as far as to say that it's more impressive than LeBron's, but here's why I agree that his longevity is unique in a sense. Because he went from New Orleans to Los Angeles. And what happened there? They were a winning organization. The culture changed. Then they went from LA to Houston, and what happened there? they were literally, and listening to Draymond Green's podcast as well, they were talking about Houston being the team. And the only team that they really looked at as a major problem in the Western Conference, and that was a team that, after they acquired Chris Paul, was literally neck and neck with Golden State, and they were what? They were up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals against Golden State.
Yeah, and in my opinion, they probably would have won if Chris Paul didn't get hurt, because he
that's what I'm saying.
Tweaked his hammy or something.
Yeah. So, and then look what happens from Houston. He goes to Oklahoma City, and what happens in that 1 year? They're winning. They make the playoffs. Then you see what happens when Chris Paul goes from Oklahoma City to Phoenix, and what do? They make the NBA Finals. His ability and his longevity of being able to impact organizations and create a winning culture is unique. I don't think it's ever been done before, where someone switched this many teams, and everywhere they've gone for as long as he has made it a winning organization. You know what I mean? And the only guy that I can compare to that is Kyle Lowry. But in his first 2 stints with Memphis and Houston, he was basically a player that was regarded as just a bench guy, not going to do very much. And then in Toronto, he spent a number of years, and then he finally moved to Miami, and then now you're seeing that culture move over. But that's only 2 teams that you've seen that with. Chris Paul has done that for, let's look at the Clippers, Houston, Oklahoma City, and Phoenix. And within the span of actually 3 years between Houston, Oklahoma City, and Phoenix, they've all been winning organizations. And when they left, look what's happened. Or when he's left, look what's happened. So, yeah, it's impressive. And I don't think, if we're comparing to LeBron, I wouldn't say if it's as impressive or more impressive, but I would definitely say it's kind of in its own category.
Yeah, I feel that.
You know what I mean? Because, just everything that he's done when he first came into the league is still the stuff he's doing now. But you could say the same thing about LeBron. But they play different positions. The way they impact the game is different also. So, yeah, that are my thoughts. That's my long-winded response to that. But, Chris Paul has had a very impressive run, and I think he might go down as top 2, top 3 greatest point guard of all time.
Oh, for sure. I think, even though he doesn't have a ring, I just think the overall impact he's had with that in terms of culture change, I think supersedes that in a sense. But I will say, I think with him being one of the smartest players in the league, if he transitions to coaching, I can only imagine.
Yeah, you can probably see how much he affects, or how smart he is off the floor, and how that translates to a team. But we've also seen situations where we thought really smart guys, they step off the court and go to the sideline. There's a number of guys you can name. Jason Kidd. I didn't say that. But you know what I mean.
Didn't Isaiah Thomas coach the Raptors at one point?
He was the GM.
Oh shit!
He was the president of basketball operations at one point. But I believe Isaiah was a coach. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, well, Chris Paul for sure has an IQ that's unmatched. So I'll give you that one.
I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for intriguing me. Now, what's your take, bro?
So this one isn't much of it's not really a take, but I would say there's something that I want to see happen. Actually, let's say this. Considering Kawhi is injured and Paul George might be out with a season-ending surgery, it seems like, based on the reports that we've seen, I think the Clippers should shut down and just tank the rest of the year, play their young guys. That's my take. That's what I think they should do, just considering they're not in a position to win anything right now. They have young guys in Terrence Mann and Amir Coffey, Zubac. Play these guys, let them develop the year, play them a shit ton of minutes, allow them to grow together, so that when you plug in your stars again, you'll have a better built system, or better built and more improved guys to come back to next year. And use the season also to rehab a guy like Serge Ibaka. Like, get him some minutes on the floor, get him back into the groove. Because you've seen when he's healthy and he's able to do some stuff, like, he's a top-notch contributor. I mean, he was one of the most important contributors to the Raptors' title run in 2019. So my take would be the Clippers should shut everything down, and that hurts me to say because I have Paul George in one of my fantasy leagues. So, as difficult as that is for me financially during my fantasy run, yeah, you feel me? Yeah, I think they should shut everything down and just tank because while everyone's on different sides of the fence, right? Like maybe one guy might say, well, you should always try to play to win, and develop your culture. But if you really don't have any chance of winning anything, even if you make the play in, what's the point? You're just gonna lose your draft pick. You're gonna have a very low draft pick during a season where you're not gonna do very much. So that's what I think they should do, in my honest opinion. Come back with a high draft pick. Do they even have the draft pick this year?
That's what I'm searching up right now.
Yeah, because I want to know if they even have the draft pick. But regardless, like, if you're seeing, and this is going to transition a little bit into our weekly player selections, I'm really liking that kid, Amir Coffee. So I'll leave that conversation for the next section, but I really think they should focus on their young guys and allow them to develop and get some time on the floor.
So OKC has their pick. So I feel like that's the main thing.
That's from the Shea trade, right?
Yeah. That's probably the main thing preventing them from tanking. But I also think that's probably the best course of action because, with them, well, they're building a new stadium, I think.
What's that? Yeah, and what's the point of them rushing back PG if he's injured too, right? Like, let these guys rehab. I think whatever direction they go with Surge too, because I know he's expiring this year if I'm not mistaken. So, you look at that 2-year deal they signed with him, it hasn't really panned out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. They're definitely a franchise right now that's just even with PG and Kawhi in the lineup, I still think they're a piece away.
Yeah, no doubt.
Which is why
I
think they got to focus on their young guys developing. But yeah, what you're saying?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that's the course to do or course to take. Because main thing for me is I'm a big Brandon Boston fan. This dude dropped like 99 points in the course of a day because I think he had like a 40 piece on the Clippers game and he had like 49 or 50 in the G League game. But no, I definitely think you have such young potential with guys like Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey is a dude that's really come out of nowhere. Brandon Boston, just like I said, Keon Johnson. You have like a nice crop of young guys, and I think definitely giving them as much run as possible because as great as the G League is for developing, Chris Middleton, I think that, nothing compares to NBA experience. And I definitely think with where they're at right now in terms of how shallow their roster is in regards to the star power, definitely think, tanking for the rest of the season and really prioritizing these young guys. I also think that will allow guys like Reggie Jackson to really get comfortable with not having PG and Kawhi. Well, they've had that for a lot, but Reggie Jackson, I think, is a guy that could still really be sort of that anchor and, not necessarily primary option, but definitely like your primary ball handler when Paul George or Kawhi is not on the floor. I think obviously with that and having more experience and being able to get more accustomed to the system, that can only be positive. So yeah, I agree. I think that despite that they don't have their draft pick, I think you just kind of nip this one in the butt, get ready for next season, but allow your young guys to really, grow into the second half of the season, allow them to, pop off.
Yeah. How nice is that for Oklahoma City, though? I'm not sure. Is it a protected pick also? It'd be interesting to know if it's a protected pick. Because if the Clippers drop low enough, or I guess the terminology is if they're high enough in the draft, if it's protected, they're going to get their pick back anyways. And then they'd have to forfeit up next year's pick. But, I mean, like you said, Brandon Boston Jr., Keon Johnson, Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, even Hartenstein. Like I feel like he could be a good
Oh yeah,
rotational piece if
Hardenstein
he
is.
continues. Yeah, if he continues to develop. Um, yeah, there's actually a really nice collection of young guys that they can give time to develop, and yeah, nip it in the bud, like you said. Allow them to come back strong for next season, and they're probably opening up that new arena by next year, aren't they?
Uh
Isn't I thought it's just a renovation of the old forum.
oh, it might be that. But I think regards to the pick protection, I don't know if I'm reading this right. I don't think there is. I think on like the other future ones there are, but 2022 I think is unprotected.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Oh well. It is what it is with the Clips, man. They're not going to win this year. Better to play the young guys a crap ton of minutes.
Oh, it
Worry
says
about them
construction won't be
developing
done
them.
till like 2024. But shoot,
Also, 2 years.
just imagine if they have the draft pick, and if it were next year,
Oh my
you come
gosh.
back with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and like this brand new prospect. Not necessarily Chet Holmgren, but one of those tough guys.
Yeah.
Whew.
It's a nice draft to look at, too. I mean, you add that to this roster, and I think they're also going to be sellers in the trade deadline.
Oh,
Just
definitely. I think there's
considering,
just so much
yeah, just
depth on that
considering
team.
their positioning.
Mm.
Like Luke Kennard's probably a name that you're going to look at. Eric Bledsoe, those two guys are probably going to be on trade discussions all of next week. Which yeah, trade deadline is next week, so keep an eye out.
Man.
Blacktop Pod will come to you with the news.
Luke Kennard to the Sixers, man. I just want to see the Sixers pick up another shooter.
That would not be a bad acquisition.
Yeah, because I think they're already so sound defensively that I think it would hide the fact that Kennard's so ass on defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's picked up it a little bit. But if I'm going off of 2K, he still can't play a lick of defense. I was like,
Yeah, you definitely extra guard play is definitely not a bad thing, especially in the playoffs. And again, like Tyrese Maxey's still a young dude. Shake Milton is still unproven in some sense, but that's still a solid backcourt. And then you pair that with Seth Curry and Luke Kennard, I think you're all right. Like extra guard play is definitely a must, and a guy who can create at different levels on the floor, and that's definitely something Luke Kennard can do. So it would be nice to add another threat on the floor alongside Joel, because man, that dude is carrying the Philadelphia 76ers this year.
for real. But I still maintain that, man, Daryl Morey, I know you're listening, buddy. But for real, I think just swallow your fucking pride and take what you can get. I think the thing that kind of sucks is that the Kings bowed out. Because again, I live and die on the hill. Buddy Hield on that team. And that
Oh
and the
yeah,
fact that you'd get a dude like Tyrese Halliburton. So gross. But to get off of that tangent, as I said earlier, or not as I said earlier, our takes are Chris Paul's longevity is more impressive than LeBron's. And the one that's a little on the safe, but still very relative or relevant side, the Clippers should nip this one in the butt and just play your young guys and get geared up for next season. Now, heading from there, let's get our superlatives. Let's start it off right out the gate. Player of the week. Now, prior to recording, I literally first thing I said to her was like, "Yo, I think we got the same guy." So, as you can see on Reuben's shirt, and if you've been following or watching any of the Toronto Huskies, formerly the Toronto Raptors, Reuben, man, who's your player of the week?
oh I got Gary Trent, bro. Gary Trent, just an unbelievable week, and I'll let you speak to it as well because I know you want to. I know you're a big believer of the guy. I mean, 5 straight games, 30 plus points, ties the record with DeMar. I also he passed Kawhi with the 4 30-point games, and his shooting percentages are crazy, and the way that he's getting his points are impactful on the floor, and you're seeing his ability to create, and you saw how rough the team looked when GTJ was actually out, and you realize how important he was. And I want to go all the way back to last year at the trade deadline. This time last year, when they made that trade Norman Powell for Gary Trent. A lot of people didn't like that trade. I personally did, just considering that Norman Powell was uh, like a gate kept asset of that championship team, and I didn't think that he had very much long run in terms of impact with the squad that was coming up, and just considering where they were at the time. GTJ at 22 years old last year, 23 this year, you add him to that core now of Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. You're seeing one of the best stretch of his career, and he's doing it against good basketball teams. He's doing it in impactful moments. He's hitting clutch shots. He's creating everywhere on the floor. And mind you, he's doing this when guys like Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam all need the ball too. But just insane. I'll let you go off on him too, because I know you have him as your guy, DJ. I want to know what you think about GTJ's week.
Man, I think this is, or maybe not, this is enough, but I think seeing this stretch already confirms who won this trade. I think with Gary Trent Jr. and Norman Powell, both super solid guys, but the main thing you get with Gary Trent Jr. is that potential. He's 23. I mean, that's crazy to even think. Norman Powell's already, 27, 28? But to talk about my boy, Gary Trent Jr., I've been a big believer in this man because if I haven't said already, when it comes to the Western Conference, a little bit sad right now, but I love the Trailblazers. They're the closest to us technically. Hopefully that changes, whether it's Seattle or Vancouver. But Gary Trent Jr., I think, that and I have a very soft spot for second round picks because, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Milton. Sorry, I keep going off track. But all I'm going to say is this. There are a lot of top tier NBA players who are both second generation and better than their dads. Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Darius Garland, who else I got on this? Klay Thompson, Devin Booker. Gary Trent Jr. with this stretch, I think, is inching his way into that conversation. And when it comes to Gary Trent Jr., he's only getting paid, $50 million? And he's dropped. And you said did he tie DeMar?
Yeah, he tied DeMar's record of 5 consecutive games, 30 plus points.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yo, and he might fucking break his record against him next time,
He could.
Shoot.
I mean, he's shooting the lights out right now. He's like playing with ultra confidence, and his team has ultra confidence. And you're seeing like in stretches of games where even today against Miami, there was a stretch there where they were down, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, 93-92. And Fred's first option crossing the court gives it to Gary Trent. Gary Trent makes a bump, sheds the defender, who is PJ Tucker, who we all know is one of the elite defenders. You know that because obviously he was instrumental to the Bucks championship last year. I mean, he shed the defender, banged the three at the top of the key. They come right back down. GTJ takes a couple dribbles, tween, attacks, step back, behind the back, boom, drains another one right over the extended hand of PJ Tucker. And then he goes back and you know what he does? He starts talking shit.
Yo!
He looks back at PJ, starts talking shit. And that's PJ Tucker, and I love PJ Tucker. And so when you got a guy that can do stuff like that at 3 levels on the floor, I think the comparisons, which I've seen a lot, are his nickname is Gary Beal. And I wouldn't be it's not a long stretch now if he continues this way of play, and obviously he's not going to score 30 points for 82 games, but if he's that kind of level of a threat on the floor and his ability to create, like, those comparisons aren't far off.
No, definitely. I think there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a 20-point per game scorer eventually. But I think not only that, but his nose for the ball when it comes on the defensive end in terms of getting steals. Because like early on in the season, he was leading the league in steals. Now, granted, he's not anymore, but I've seen stretches where he had like 5 steals in a game, and there's so many players that can't even get one. But I think the fact that you have that premium 3-level scorer with a guy who has such a good nose for the ball. And again, the fact that he's only getting paid $50 million, $16 a year, that is, I can't even put into words how much of a steal that is.
Yeah. Well, Toronto definitely screwed up with that contract. I think they've got him on a player option after next season, if I'm
Oh
not mistaken.
no!
So he can opt out after next year, and he can command a lot more money, and that's going to be tough considering, I think they obviously have Fred, OG, and Pascal on the books.
Hmm.
Um, Scotty
You definitely want
will
to save that
be
money.
looking
Yeah.
towards the rookie extension, the rookie max extension, and then depending on what they get next year, that's where I would say that's the only place where Toronto kind of messed up on
Dang.
the contract negotiations with Gary, because obviously they weren't sure what they were going to get out of him, and at the beginning of the season, a lot of people said trade Gary because he wasn't very good to start the year, and then once he was inserted into the starting lineup, he played so well that Nick Nurse just said, "Get rid of the traditional lineup. We're going to start Scotty and Pascal at the center and play small." And it's worked for them thus far. They've won 3 consecutive games, twice against Miami. And we'll see what happens. I mean, Gary Trent is obviously a big part of what they're doing, and you're seeing it. And yeah, man, I think that core is really scary if Gary Trent continues to develop the way he's going right now.
Not for sure. All right. Well, segueing from there, I don't think this one's gonna be as long of a talk because I still love this guy, but man, Gary Trent Jr. was one of my favorite players to watch. Now, for me, granted, he had a bit of a dud in his last game, but if you take that away, Anthony Simons is my player of the week, and not even just the week, but like the past little stretch here. Because, in my opinion, if Dame sits the rest of the year, I think Anthony could surf right into that. I don't think he's gonna win it, but I think he could definitely find himself in that most improved player conversation the way he's playing. Because I mean, look at these numbers: 23 points, 6.7 assists, alongside 43% from three on Dame level game level output at 11 a game. Basically, it's crazy. And I think the main thing that kind of you know pokes out at me is the 6.7 assists because it's granted that Anthony Simons is a bucket, no doubt. But I think him showcasing his ability to facilitate to that level of almost like 8 assists a game, that's crazy. But shoot, I think he's also in a bit of a I definitely don't think he's comparable, but it's almost a James Harden-esque situation where, you know, he's playing around so many great players, you know, your Dame Lillard, your CJ McCollums, that I think if that team's healthy, definitely hampers his development a bit. I'm not saying, trade him and let him go find him out himself, but I think with the way that the Blazers have been performing and just this sort of kind of projection that we're looking at, if they were to trade Dame, I'm not going to say that I'd be like super against it because obviously Damian Lillard bleeds two things: Oakland and Portland.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to, I don't want to say do right by him, but Dame is like one of the guys that I wouldn't be so pressed if they went out to find a ring because I think they've earned that. But if I'm Portland, you got something good with Ebony Simons, man. I mean, a very big steal at this point because he was towards the end of the first round. But the way he's playing, man, I think that's definitely not necessarily shifted it so much in terms of the possibility of trading Dame. But I think that's definitely, knocked them around a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. I mean, the biggest thing in the NBA is opportunity, right? And if you look around the league, there's really only like just more than 500 roster spots. And Anthony Simons proved, like even when Dame was playing, that he's a bucket. But when you get consistent time and you get comfortable with the ball in your hands and you get trust in the coaching staff, and you're not afraid of being pulled and making mistakes when you're on the floor, that's a huge confidence builder. Because oftentimes as young players, like you make a mistake on the floor, you're getting hooked right away. And a lot of coaches believe that's the way to teach and learn. And in this case, Anthony is kind of the only option. So when he's making mistakes, he's able to play through. And so that gives him the confidence to go out there and try different things on the floor. And you're just seeing also his creativity to score is pretty dope too. Like he's got a bag, man. Like his ability to create shots and I agree. I definitely think his progression thus far without Dame. And even though they're not winning, but you have something good there where you can explore new options now and see what else you could get from that. Not saying they should trade Dame because at the end of the day, why in the heck would you ever trade a superstar just to allow your young guy to play? I can't remember the last time that we ever seen that or an option where that's ever been, viable and that actually helps another team long term. But Anthony Simons is playing well, man. So definitely they've got to think about what they want to do with that roster because right now they're stuck in lead just as much as a team like the Clippers at this moment, or being in the middle of the pack is what they've been for the last couple of years, and they haven't made change. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I Anthony Simons is solid for sure.
It's got such a deep bag. All right, heading from there though, let's talk about our surprise of the week. Oh, I guess I'll start this one. So for me, I've got one of the greatest players to come out of Chino Hills, California, Onyeka Okongwu. So when it comes to him, man, he's averaging 10 points and 6 rebounds at only about 20 minutes a game. Super solid. But not only that, he's shooting an amazing 67% from the field. That is, you love those percentages. 67%, that means like not every time, but 2 out of 3 times he's putting shit up, it's going in. Not only that, but when it comes to PER, he's top 40. He's better than starting centers. Not saying better, but when it comes to the PER, he's better than guys like Richaun Holmes, Miles Turner, Vucevic, and Christian Woods. All guys who are starting centers. Now, am I saying he's a starting center? I don't know. But I think he's playing so amazing that he should definitely get more playing time. Not only that, I think where the Hawks are, because currently at this time of recording, they're 10th. So right on the bubble of the play-in and not being in the playoffs at all. I think a lot of their success would be contingent on Onyeka playing well. In the fact that with the Hawks, they lack a lot of balance. One of the best offenses in the league, but completely piss poor on the defensive end. And man, him being 6'8", he has a lot of switchability. Because shoot, when I watched him play against the Bucks, wasn't clamping Giannis because can't nobody clamp Giannis except maybe the Raptors during that one playoff section. But he was playing pretty solid against Giannis. He has good foot speed. I think again, him being a little bit smaller for the center position, I think is a positive in that he's able to guard multiple positions. I think it's a lot like a guy like Robert Williams, where obviously they're not 6'10", 6'11", but the way they play is so much more than their height. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. I gotta choose the guy who's surprise of the week. I got Onyeka Okongwu.
I like Okongwu. He's outplayed Capella, so he's definitely he's been quite a surprise and picking it up. My surprise of the week, I'm going to keep it short on this one. I think I mentioned earlier off the top Amir Coffey, for the Clippers. He's performed really well, and it's been nice because I've got him on my fantasy team. I picked him up and I've been watching him more and more closely, and he's contributing, man. He's a guy that's basically taking the reins and making the most of his opportunity with PG and Kawhi out. And he's doing everything. He's rebounding the basketball. He's scoring the ball. I mean, he's defending. He's doing everything you want a young player to do, especially when they get an opportunity. And I would like to liken the current situation the Clippers are in to what the Warriors were last year. A lot of young guys, a lot of solid role players, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of games, and they're going to struggle. But once you plug in those stars, and then you get these young guys and these kind of like outliers, these gatekeepers come into the league and make an opportunity for themselves, and then you can kind of filter out and see who's going to fit alongside these guys. And look what happened to Golden State. They found a bunch of guys like Gary Payton, JTA, right? These are the kind of guys that you can see with a Amir Coffey, Keon Johnson, Brandon Boston. You can see these guys eventually develop into that kind of role that you're seeing now with Golden State when you plug the stars back in. So we'll see where he continues to develop and progress throughout this year, but he's been a surprise of the week and even longer because, he's been playing consistently good basketball for them.
Yeah, love that he does everything on the floor, man. You always need a guy like that. You got JTA, Kenny Hustle, all those guys. But shoot, All right, Reuben. Let me hear you talk about Scotty Barnes. Nah, who's your rookie of the week, bro?
Oh, I got Scotty. I got Scotty. I mean, he's having a hell of a week. I just think also his performance in that triple overtime game against Miami was big time. Um, yeah, I give it to Scotty. I mean, he's doing everything this week. The Raptors are 3-0 over the last 3 games, and I mean, they beat the I mean, they beat Miami twice and kicked them off the top spot, and Chicago's overtaken that top spot again, just simply because Toronto's beaten the top team in the East twice. And barring they are without Kyle Lowry, and understandably so, my heart's out to Kyle. I hope everything's okay with him. He's going through a personal issue. And yeah, I got Scotty, man. Nothing more I can say. Evan Mobley's been great. Cade Cunningham's been great. I just have to give the level of consistency on both ends to Scotty, just because he impacts the game and they're winning right now. And so, I'm the kind of guy who likes to reward winning and impact. If you're performing well and that's impacting winning, that's where I kind of lean towards. So I get that, Scotty.
Hey man, can't deny it, bro. Scotty Barnes, certified. For me, this is a guy who I really enjoy watching, even though he plays for the Magic, and the Magic season is very much lost. I got Franz Wagner. I mean, 8th overall picked. Obviously you can't really categorize him as a steal, but in comparison to the two guys they drafted, definitely, as much as people expected Jalen Suggs to be like this top tier guy, I think Franz Wagner is significantly outperforming him and all rookies in a sense. But I think the main thing is just that with team success. But when it comes to Franz, he's leading rookies in overall scoring by like a significant margin, 100+ points. And for me, I think the main thing with rookies I love to see is they look very comfortable. When I watch Franz, he looks very comfortable, and I think he's just a guy that's overall contributing to that, much like how Scotty is, that positionless basketball. He's 6'9", but he has handles, pretty decent handles if I do say so myself. And not only that, he's already coming in decent size at 225. I mean, we compared to a guy who came in at 6'9", you got Giannis Antetokounmpo, but he was a literal stick. With Franz, and the fact that he's another guy who, much like Chris Duarte, spent more than 1 year, wasn't a one and done. But with that, you get guys who are much more prepared, I feel. And not only that, coming from a program like Michigan, headed by the NBA veteran like Juwan Howard, I think Franz is a dude who's definitely, obviously he's solidified his spot, but I think not only just solidifying his spot, I think he's very much secured that he's one of the core guys, along with like guys like Wendell Carter, Jalen Suggs still, and Cole Anthony. So for me, man, my rookie of the week, if the Magic were more successful, I think he'd definitely be in contention for rookie of the year. But, Franz Wagner, dude's a bucket.
Yeah, he's been good. And he had that meteoric rise at the beginning of January, when, and granted, a lot of the rookies were out during that time, during that stretch. But I mean, he's earned it. I mean, he's got a bag, and like you said, his calmness and his composure on the floor is huge for a rookie. And it reminds me a lot. I wouldn't say that he's close to this caliber of player, but it reminds me a lot of Luca, where a guy can come into the floor, come onto the court and play a game and not look like he's like a deer in the headlights, so to speak.
Like he looks like he's been there.
He looks like he's been there, and that's a huge quality for any player. And there's very few guys that you're seeing, very few guys that have that. But for some reason, this draft has got a bunch of that. Like Franz Wagner, Cade has been awesome. Evan, Scotty, you're seeing that across the board for some of these top rookies. Makes you realize like how special this draft class is and how impactful it will be in the future for this league. But yeah, Franz has been solid.
The second I knew this draft class was going to be special was when Chris Duarte took the last shot. I think it was like the second or third quarter in his very first game. I was like, yo, there's something about this. That and the fact that there's like the top 4, top 5 could have all been like the first overall picks in their own respective draft. But speaking on that, we got the Rising Stars Challenge. I love the new thing that's going to be happening. So if listeners, if y'all don't know already, There's going to be 4 teams, and I think it's going to be much like how the All-Star game is in that, it's going to be picks. But not only that, you got some coaches, some legendary coaches. You got Rick Barry, the greatest free throw routine of all time. Guaranteed 50, 40, 90 if you're doing it in 2K, because that's the shit I use. Gary Payton, undoubtedly not only one of, if not the best defensive guards, but unequivocally the greatest shit talker of all time. This is a man that I would pay good money to hear his mic'd ups. Him and KG. Okay, heading from there though, Isaiah Thomas. This guy does meet the qualifications to coach. And the last guy, this is probably the only guy who can say he was the number 1 option over Michael Jordan, James Worthy. But I mean, looking at this pool, I love that they're getting the G League Ignite guys involved. I mean, out of all of them, I only really know Jaden Hardy just because whenever I use a 2K draft class, I tend to draft him because the dude that whoever makes the draft class always gives them like a super easy jumper. But yeah, shoot, I think that and Scoot Henderson, the first guy who's going to be there for multiple years, I'm so excited to see him play. I mean, shoot, there's just so much young talent. I mean, Reuben, bro, what do you think of the Rising Stars Challenge?
Yeah, I'm excited. The new format's just going to give it a level of competition. I think nobody likes to lose in a game of 21, right?
100%.
And that's basically what we're going to see in a 5-on-5, first to 21 type of thing. And they're going to play in a series of 3 games. That's going to be super fun. And we were talking about this offline. Like, LaMelo Ball is a second-year player.
And he's averaging almost a 20-point triple-double.
It's insane. The kid is awesome, and he looks like he's having fun out there in the court. But look, I'm just gonna name some of the top names like right off the bat, if you don't mind. Scotty, Cade, Ayudasongu, Giddy,
Dog.
Evan Mobley,
Dog,
Suggs, Wagner. We're looking at the sophomores: Cole Anthony, Bane, Sadiq Bey's been solid for Detroit. LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey, Okoro has been solid. Jayshawn Tate for Houston. And then you get the Ignite, and they're really pushing and promoting the G League Ignite, which is awesome because, they're providing another opportunity for high school kids to come out and pursue their dreams without having to give up their namesake in the NCAA. And, a lot of these kids also, school isn't for everybody. And I'm not going to sit here and say, school didn't help me, but opportunities and paths should be pretty open for people to reach what they want to do. And I think the G League Ignite, how they're pushing it and allowing kids to go straight from high school to pursue their dreams and play basketball and get paid for it right away and gain those opportunities right off the bat is dope. And it's great that they're pushing that. So I'm really excited for the Rising Stars because you're gonna get a mix of 4 teams, different guys. They'll play with each other, and they're gonna compete because that it's gonna be for charity. And that nobody likes to lose in a game of 21. I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be super fun.
All right, Reuben, if you could put together your starting 5 of guys you're most excited to watch, who you got in there?
Okay. Well, for sure, Scotty. I want to see Scotty. I want to see Cade. I want to see LaMelo. So I would have LaMelo at point guard, Cade at shooting guard. I would have Scotty at the 3. At that point, I gotta have Precious because I want my Toronto representation. I'll put Precious at the 4 and Evan Mobley at the 5. That's my starting 5 right there. Yeah, I know people are gonna be like, bro, how could you not put Anthony Edwards? I love Anthony Edwards, but I gotta put in my Toronto representation.
I respect that. I respect it.
How about you, bro? Man, I want to know your starting. Yeah, give your top 5.
Man, I don't even know if I can go by positions, but I think off rip, Jaden Hardy, I'm very excited to watch. Scoot Henderson, again, he's only 17, so this is the first dude who's going to be in the G League Ignite for multiple years. So that's 2 right there. Jalen Green, Pinoy Pride, man. I think the way he plays ball is very much like in a game of 21. And from there, man, Desmond Bane, in my opinion, the MIP is a 2-person race right now. I think it's between Miles Bridges and Desmond Bane. And the fact that Desmond Bane was drafted by the Celtics, but they chose to trade him. Oh, imagine him on that team. But shoot, yeah, Desmond Bane. What was that?
tough.
That's my 4. I need one more. If I had to go one more, let's see here.
I like that she chose the Ignite players. I think that she
Yeah,
chose them
I'm
for
very
sure.
excited to watch those
Give
guys
them
because
some
this
love.
is like not to shit on the G League, but as much as it is somewhat NBA experience, this is circled right on their calendar. Like I'm gonna
For
go up
sure.
against like these young guys that I'm gonna be dueling with the next few years. But if I had to go one more, let's see here. Dang. I'm gonna go wild card here. Herb Jones. I think he's just another good second round pick that's very much looking like he's gonna be a solid dude in the next few years. I mean, granted, he's much like a Franz Wagner and a Chris Duarte, where he came in at 23, so he's got a lot more experience than these other guys in terms of playing more higher level basketball. I think just what he's been able to do on a struggling Pelicans team has been very special, and I think they've definitely found one of their premier, if not their premier, like wing defender in Herb Jones. So I'm excited to see him. Like, you know, fuck all the buckets. I want to see Herb Jones get some stops, man. I want to see him
Dude,
clamp up on people.
I definitely want to see some intense basketball in that game. I mean, we haven't seen it in so long, so it'll be nice to see the young guys kind of go after it. And I think the format kind of breeds some new competition. You have a nice, unique selection of picks there for your team. So
Appreciate it, yo.
I like that. I like that.
But all right, y'all. We come to the main reason y'all are here. The day this is posted, they're going to be announcing it. So we could either be completely right and, NBA GMs, NBA analytics, all that stuff, hit us up for some jobs. Well, Ruben's already working for the NBA, but for me and Christian, you know what I'm saying? But we have our NBA All-Star reserve selections. So if you don't know already, listeners, from each conference, you get 2 guards, 3 front courts, and 2 wild cards. Now, Reuben, man, I think both of us being fans of Eastern Conference teams, I think it's only right we start there, bro.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, I'll let you start off because I already know who one of your guards is. Let's start off with the guards.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna go by just who I think the coaches would vote in, like right off the bat. So I think the East, the 2 mandatory guards are gonna be LaMelo Ball and Zach LaVine. I think that's those 2 guys are having awesome seasons, and I think Chicago deserves 2 All Stars. And to be quite frank, I think Zach LaVine should have been the starting backcourt with DeMar over Trae Young. And while Trae Young's been having an awesome season, again, I like to reward winning. I know people have different
That's what I
opinions
think
on
too.
All Stars. The All Stars is one individual great performance, but what about the guys that are having awesome years and also impacting winning? So I think you gotta reward that. So I got LaMelo Ball, Zach LaVine, the guards. My front court, I've got Jason Tatum, Jarrett Allen, and Jimmy Butler. That's my 3 front court. I think Miami deserves, even though Jimmy was out for a significant period of time, like Miami has been able to hold the fort down. And Jimmy, when he's playing, is triple double threat every single night. I mean, the dude is playing awesome basketball right now, and people aren't giving him love and respect at all. And that's for some reason Miami's flying under the radar, but they always do. So I think Jimmy definitely deserves some love because when he's been on the floor, he's been an all-star. But we'll see. That might impact like what the coaches think. And then I've got my 2 wildcard spots, and I'm going to give those 2 wildcard spots to Darius Garland and Fred VanVleet. As you know, I think those 2 guys are just playing like lights out basketball. Like there's no way these 2 guys can miss the All Star. Unfortunately, I think the coaches might only vote one of them in, and I'm feeling that if there's going to be a snub on the All Star team, it'll probably be Fred. Just considering, how voting has always gone, and Fred's not some sexy name, but I sure hope he makes it as a wild card. And I did want to include this because Kevin Durant is out. I think there's going to be an injury reserve, and I think that's going to. I hope it's James Harden. I hope it's James Harden. I know that it might have to be a front court player considering it's Katie that's out. So I'm trying to think about another front court player that I would have in there. I would say Vooch. Vooch might be in there. There's also Sabonis, but he's also been out as well. So it's kind of tough to pick that injury reserve. If I had the option to say like it would be a wild card player, it would be James Harden. And then maybe you could start Jason Tatum and then have James Harden fill in that spot. I think James Harden will actually make it in and be one of the first selections to make the All Star team. But yeah, it's my East team.
Solid. For me, so for the most part, I think ours is pretty lined up. I'll just go through mine real quick.
Cool.
So for the two guards, I got Darius Garland here and Zach LaVine. Again, I agree that Zach LaVine definitely should have been the starter. I think as amazing as Trae Young's season is, look at Bradley Beal's snub. Like, what was he averaging? Like 32, 33 points a game at that point, and put him on. Granted, Trae Young's definitely deserving of it, but again, I agree. You gotta reward winning here. If there's a guy that's averaging 50 points, but his team is 0-82, is he gonna win MVP? Fuck no.
No.
Now from there, my front court, much like you, I got Jason Tatum and Jared Allen. I don't have Jimmy because I think he'd be the starter over KD. So
he'd be the reserve. He'd be the injury reserve.
Yeah. For here, this is my homer pick. Chris Middleton.
I knew it.
I love Chris, and I think he's definitely more likely to make it over Drew just because of how deep the East is with guards. And my two wild cards are James Harden and LaMelo Ball. But yeah, man, I just want to see Chris Middleton make his third All-Star team, man. Chris Middleton, that's my dude. So is Bobby. So is Drew. So is I would name the whole roster, but I think Chris Middleton, man. One of the most consistent players who, in my opinion, doesn't get enough love. I was definitely a part of that where I was like, why the fuck we give this man max money? But I understand. And I want to say, I love you, Chris. I'm never going to stop loving you, Chris.
Chris has been playing well since he came back from the injury. So you have to give him that for sure. I think this year is kind of the year where you kind of put some of the injury COVID stuff aside because everybody's missing time. I do want to give love right now, and I hope that he gets some nods from the coaches. Is Pascal?
I didn't realize how good of a season he's having. But yeah,
he's probably having a better year, and people don't realize just because of all the media damage that his reputation has taken since the 2020 bubble. The dude is having a better season when he was the NBA All-Star starter and an All-NBA player. He's having a much more efficient and better statistical and impactful year than that season. So just to put that in context, like if that were the case, then you would think that he'd be, a lock for that positioning. But I don't think he will be, just considering that he's also missed like first quarter of the season, which unfortunately will always damage like any player's race in any award. But I just wanted to share that because, it sounds like I'm being a homer, but Pascal is having a hell of a season.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
Hey man, that's okay. I'll join the homer with you. Drew Holiday, it is a crime that he only has one All-Star selection. Now, while I don't think he'll get one this year, just again, based off how much depth there is at the guard position, if you ask a lot of these players, a lot of these NBA superstars, who's the toughest like matchup when it comes to guards, Drew Holiday is normally like number one on there. I mean, you've heard KD give him praise, Bradley Beal give him praise. All these guys who are at the top of the mountain believe this man, Drew Holiday, is the toughest when it comes to guards. But yeah, man, I'll join you right on that like homer mountain. Yeah. I do think Pascal's definitely having an amazing season. But yeah, I think just with it sucks, but just how much his name's been dragged through the dirt. But shoot, man, I think he'll definitely get some love. But yeah,
I sure hope so.
Yeah,
I sure hope so.
But all right, let's shift over to the West. I'll go from here. So my two guards is the backcourt of Phoenix. I think that's a pretty big lock there. Devin Booker and Chris Paul, best team in the league right now, record wise. And as it's looking right now, looking even better than last year, especially with you can see they really addressed their problems with last year with the fact that they have two backup centers. But
Yeah.
from there, my front court, I got Cat, Rudy, and Draymond Green. I think Draymond Green is the epitome of the fact that you don't have to put up 20 a game to get an All-Star selection. You can see with Golden State and how, I mean, granted, the day of this shooting, they came back from San Antonio, but you can see how much the offense is like struggling as well as the defense without Draymond Green in there. And I just think that Draymond Green should definitely be an All-Star. But with his back, I don't know if that'll happen. So if I were to pick an injured reserve, I like Kristaps here. I mean, Kristaps having a solid season. You definitely will always see him as second fiddle to Luca. But I think if there's an injured reserve for the front court, I think he's one of the first guys there. My two wild cards here. I got Luca Doncic. I mean, granted, this dude, like, automatic, not necessarily automatic, but most of the time, definitely poised for a triple-double every night. I mean, there's so much we can say about the dude. This dude's been playing professional basketball since he hit puberty, basically. And now we see he's doing it on the highest level. And he's playing a lot better, too. I mean, to start the season, he came in overweight. Definitely could see he was a bit on the slow side of things, but now he's really starting to pick things back up. My last wild card, Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards is so amazing to watch. I think what he does on the offensive end is not necessarily groundbreaking, but you can definitely see that he's cut from that same cloth of like amazing shooting guards. I just think with his athleticism, his ability to stretch the floor, and just again, much like Gary Trent Jr., 3-level scorer, I think when it comes to the offensive end, that is the most important thing. Shooting's great, being able to drive is great, but I think not having a weakness when it comes to getting spots on the floor is amazing. But yeah, if now I don't think the Timberwolves are going to get two, but if this was me picking, I got Anthony Edwards here. Who do you got, bro?
I got a slightly different list from you, actually. A slightly different, but in some ways very similar. So my two guards would be Devin Booker and Luca. I think you know what, if you were to give a mandatory spot, Luca's got to be in there, and then one of the Phoenix guards. But I think CB3 or D Book, whichever one would not be in that mandatory spot, would just fall in the wild card. So Booker and Luca. My front court would be also Draymond, Karl Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert. But I think with considering Rudy's injury, if he's not there, I think I really like Jaren Jackson Jr. to be honest. I think he's having an awesome year and a bit of an underrated one too. So I would have him as an injury reserve for Rudy. And then the wild card spots, I have CP3. Depending on what happens with the concussion protocols and how he's feeling, I think Donovan Mitchell should be in that conversation as well. I think Utah does deserve to have two All-Stars just because of how awesome they've been. But if Donovan doesn't make it in, and or he's injured during the time the game comes around, I would love to see DeJounte Murray for the Spurs. I mean, he's averaging a near triple-double this year. Dude, that dude is playing lights out. He's not getting enough love just considering the Spurs are having a struggle season. But you can see that he's turned into a cornerstone piece of that franchise, and he's going to be a superstar in this league to come. And whether he's an all-star this year or, he'll be one at some point in his career, whether that's this year or next or whatever. But yeah, so that's slightly different picks for me, but for the most part, we're around the same selections. I don't really oppose any of yours. I mean, maybe the Anthony Edwards one, just considering.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of like
that's a reach for sure.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
no doubt.
But I like Edwards. I do like Edwards. I have nothing bad to say about him other than the fact he does hog the ball sometimes. So.
Oh yeah, okay. No, I think the Jaren Jackson. I think that's an underrated pick. Definitely, I think this is a dude 6'11" with some guard skills, and I think the fact that how amazing Memphis is and how not necessarily that nobody predicted it. Actually, no, fuck that. A lot of people, nobody really thought. I mean, for me, I definitely thought they would definitely make the playoffs, but to have this much success and to be in like the top 4 seeds,
yeah, to be in third place right now,
yeah,
no,
for sure.
Nobody expected to see that. Come on, like I wasn't expecting to see Ja Morant in the MVP conversation this year. I wasn't expecting to see the Grizzlies top 3 in the Western
Man,
Conference.
no, just imagine if they were still here, bro. Imagine how lively the city would be.
I know, man. It makes me cry thinking if we could have had Ja Morant to cheer for, dude. That guy would have loved Vancouver.
And doesn't make it any better that they have the Vancouver Grizzlies. Like, they've had those jerseys. And you see Ja Morant's name on the back, man.
And then Ja Morant was sporting that thing.
I know,
I wish they still
bro.
had Jonas, man. I wish they still had Jonas, too.
Oh, my gosh. If Jonas is still on that team, and the way he's playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they would be, like, second or third or even first.
Yeah, even from an individual, like if we're still on the All-Star reserves, Jonas has been having a good enough season to make the All-Star.
Oh yeah, I think he's like DeJounte, where he's having such an amazing season, but the fact that he's playing for their respective teams.
Yeah.
But man, Jonas Valanciunas, I got that dude on my fantasy team, and I remember when he had like a 40 piece against the Clippers.
Yeah, that brother is playing lights out, and he's shooting the best of his career, like from outside. Defensively, he's playing the best that he has had. I mean, if there's one player that I would absolutely love to have one All-Star berth, at least one, it would be Jonas.
Definitely, I agree with that. I mean, when it comes to Pelicans, though, once they're healthy, that's a scary team.
Jesus. And Jonas fits with that team, bro, because if you look at it, Jonas can hit the 3 now, so he spreads the floor for guys like Zion and VI,
And with him being like that big center, I think it makes up for the fact that Zion is undersized.
Yeah.
And then the fact that Brandon Ingram's 6'8", so...
That's a lot of length. That's a lot of, like, really good size. And New Orleans actually has some really solid pieces, man. Like, you're still talking about a Josh Hart and a Devontae Graham, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Jackson Hayes. I mean, that's a team, if it was fully healthy, I think it's much better. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got injured, but, man. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, though, that's my dude. That's our Canadian brethren.
It's our Canadian boy. I was hoping he was going to give us a breakout year, but...
he's shown sparks, but...
Yeah.
Man, you might get him to your rafters. No, never mind.
Oh, dude, I would love to have him on the rafters.
I would love to see the cousin connection and have him find his way on OKC, and I think that 2-man game would be. I mean, we've seen how amazing 2 cousins playing together has been when it comes to Toronto, but to see it in another generation, that would be some special stuff.
Yeah, in Toronto, not in Oklahoma City, in Toronto. Okay,
no, I'm talking about when like T-Mac.
I know. I'm just saying, like, okay, if we're gonna have those 2 cousins, if we're gonna have SGA and
oh, true, the 2 together, you gotta put them in Canada.
Let's put them in Toronto, dude. You gotta put them in Canada.
That would.
Oh man. Conversation for another time.
Yeah, Shea's another guy I think should definitely get some All-Star love, but. Because he's
for sure. But you know, obviously they're 14th in the West. But the dude's playing crazy right now.
I know, man. Fuck.
Oh, can I throw another honorable mention here?
Of course, bro.
Christian Wood.
Oh, bro, Christian Wood on my fantasy team. I love that dude.
Me too.
Guaranteed 20 and 10 almost every game.
Great year. He's having a great year.
I know. In my opinion, I think, man, this is going off a tangent, but I definitely think the Rockets should maybe sell on him and put him on a contender. Now, I think a lot of people are saying Miami. I don't know how that money gonna work, but Christian Wood is playing too good of a brand of basketball to be wasting away on a rebuilding team. I mean, he's 26, so he's still relatively young, but he's right in his prime. And seeing how amazing he's playing, his ability to stretch the floor, and he has some nice length to him. Pause. This dude should definitely be on a contender come trade deadline.
This man said pause.
Well, no, I love Christian Wood. Man, the Bucks know how to find them gems, know what I'm saying? We drafted Alex English, Hall of Famer.
That's some facts.
Christian Wood.
Yeah, man.
Tobias Harris.
I have an affinity for Dante DiVincenzo.
I do too, but man, Bucks fans don't hate me. I don't think he's gonna be on the team next year. I think just with that he's coming to a contract year and that there's not much money to go around. As much as I love Dante, if I would prefer that they sold on him to get, as much out of him as they could rather than just lose with the free agency. But yeah, man, Dante DiVincenzo, it's so sad that he went down in that first round because, bro, this dude, I think he complements Drew Holiday so well and that they're both defense first guys. I think if that team's fully healthy, or not, if my team's fully healthy, if Dante DiVincenzo's at his peak,
I think that championship run would have been a lot easier for Milwaukee.
Oh, definitely.
And I think people underrate what his impact would have been on that team, at least in the playoffs, just considering that he's a guy who does everything off ball really well. Like you said, compliments Drew, but compliments Giannis and Chris.
Definitely.
Right? He's the guy willing to do a lot of the dirty work, but, he's a guy that, correct me if I'm mistaken, can spread the floor as well, right?
No, definitely. And he rebounds so well for a guard.
Yeah. And he plays that role, and I liken him a lot to Josh Hart right now in terms of where
that's a good comparison.
Yeah, in terms of where his trajectory is going as a player. If you can turn into a Josh Hart, you're a contending piece. Like, you're an asset to a contender. And if he's fully healthy, I think we see a slightly different but easier playoff run for Milwaukee.
Yeah, like they sweep the Suns. No, okay. On that note, though. Oh, go ahead, yo.
No. I just want to. I want to do a shrug. I'm just going like this.
Hey, Gabe, if you're listening, bro. Matt, Bucks and 6. Well, with that ends another episode of the Blacktop podcast. Thank you to my co-host Reuben. I've been your host DJ. Shout out to our brother missing in action, Christian. Hope your homework's going well. But yeah, we are super excited for what the future holds for us. I mean, there's so much that can be done, and we are so excited. I mean, I already revamped the binder this week. We got tiers now, baby. It's not going to be, it's not going to be, you could always say 7-footer against a 6-footer. They ain't getting shit. But shoot, man, I mean...
We're going to take the Blacktop pod to the actual Blacktop and have a podcast outside on the court.
Yes. Once we make it and we have our own houses, we're gonna get a basketball court built there. Not even to play ball.
We're not gonna go to Kids Beach.
Oh fuck! You right, yo.
That would be crazy.
Nah, we definitely gotta do that someday.
Oh man,
just like
so
fuck your pickup game, yo. We here to record a podcast, man.
Yeah, true. Sit right in the center of the court.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, you guys can play us for the court. We're gonna have the tables for the next hour. Right?
Yeah. We drew Mo Bamba, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan. Who's your starter? You guys? Ugh.
Yeah, you're done. You guys gotta get out of here. That'd be too funny.
But regardless, we just want to thank you for first of all listening. If you've made it this far, give it a like, rate the pod, all that good stuff. Other than that, you can find us on all our socials. Some of them are different, so I'm not going to go one by one. But you got the description right there, homie. You can see. And even aside from that, shit, kind of fucked that. But the last thing I want to say is just thank you again for listening. I mean, we wouldn't be nothing without y'all. And we are so excited for our current listeners, our future listeners, and everything in between. I mean, man, there's just so much that's going to happen. So much. I mean, I can't even put it into words. I mean, shoot. Reuben, bro, why don't you close this out, bro? Because
right.
I don't even know.
Yes, sir. This man is speechless right now because he's just thankful for the support. And we thank you guys, and we're grateful that you guys have supported the show to this level thus far, and we're really excited to continue doing some fun stuff and just talking hoops. And for the next episode, we'll have Chid on here, and we'll just talk some more ish about ball. But yeah, man, super excited about what the future of this podcast is going to be with my buddy DJ and my buddy Chin. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on. You guys, we send it off to you. Let us know also in the comments if you guys have any topics or anything that you'd like for us to discuss. Or maybe you might want to come on and debate one of us on a different topic. Let us know. Let us know what's up. We got y'all.
Appreciate that, Reuben. So, this has been episode 2 of the Blacktop podcast. Y'all take care. Y'all stay safe. We'll see you next time.